Hey everybody, you found the Hillbilly Voodoo channel. This here is Project Eeyore, our extreme off-road wheelchair. It's a mashup of snowmobile parts and lawnmower parts and other parts. So it's going to be an off-road wheelchair or extreme track vehicle of some type. The last time we got our forward and backward controls built, our steering brakes assembled, and we had the tracks on it, and we were going to decide whether we were going to put a battery in it or a fuel tank. But looking at it, I kind of realized that we haven't figured out where the center of gravity is here yet. By just kind of eyeballing, we got a whole lot of weight on the front and not a whole lot of weight on the back. So, in order to figure out what we're going to do, where we're going to put the tank and the battery, which I think is going to have to be near the back to balance it all out, we have to trim the front frame down so that we can set this thing on the ground and rock it back and forth and sit in the seat and see whether we're going to end up flopping on our face or we're going to end up flopping over backwards. Yeah, so that's where we're at now. Modify the frame in the front, put it on the ground, wiggle it around. So as you can see, that frame in the front there is hanging way down below the wheels. I left it that way because I had it sitting on the jack stands on that frame, so it was up higher off the ground. I didn't have to slither around like a snake. But I think it's about time that we chop that off at where the marks where the lowest ground part are. And what I mean by that is this bar cutting across here is going to be pretty much the lowest part of the undercarriage of the machine. So I got some lines marked there. We'll cut that off right there, get that frame out of the way so we can take this thing off the jack stand, so put it on the ground and see if we made a weebly wobbly bobblehead or if it's gonna be somewhat stable. Well, my shop seems to be about as full of crap as I am right now and just as dimly lit, so hopefully you guys can kind of sort of see what I'm doing here, but it's just grinding, and grinding isn't really thrilling anyway, so here we go. Bend that down a little bit so I can get at the back side of that without having to climb underneath there. I hope. You're deframed. How about that? Frame's chopped off there now. You can see what I mean by the ground clearance. One end off there now. Now we can set it down on the skids and see if it's going to be weeble wobbly and how much weight we're going to have to put to the back or whether it's all going to be fine the way it is. Got this thing sitting here on the ground, and from all my calculations and everything, I think the tipping point is going to be somewhere right around there. That's with the way it's sitting now, with all my awesomeness sitting in the seat. So let's find out if my calculations are kind of correct here, or if we're totally off base. So yeah, it kind of looks like that's where it's at. Now, some violent motion and jumping up and down and stuff. It's going to tip forward, obviously, but we are going to have a hitch in the back. The battery's going to go in the back. The fuel tank will go in the back. Possibly a winch. So that's going to add maybe 150. Well, we'll go 150 on the light side. And I'm probably the largest thing that will ever sit in this seat. So we should be good. Kind of not really liking the position of the seat though, so I think maybe I'm gonna move it back. I got about another inch there. Whether or not this is gonna be the real seat or not, just kind of feels too small for me, but anyways, it's a seat and it'll give us an idea of what we need to do. So it'll definitely go back another inch. There's space there. So it kind of looks like we might be on the right track here with putting the battery and the fuel tank in the back. Maybe we'll work on the actual hitch part. We might be able to use the part that we actually cut off the frame for the back for the hitch. Well, let's think about this for a minute. So I got this piece of frame here that we just chopped off the front. What I'm thinking is we're gonna put this on the back, which this was the back because the back is the front and the front is the back, and everything's all turned around here because we're making something out of things that shouldn't be made out of. So anyways, if you understood that, well, you're probably above my pay grade. So we're gonna put this on the back here. I don't think we're gonna weld it on here, just in case it doesn't work. And I kind of want to move it in a little more because I don't want it sticking out past the back end of where the tracks are. So probably cut it and bolt it so we're back in this direction here. Probably won't stick out too far past the back of the tracks. Should be a good strong hitch. Should be able to mount a winch on there, or maybe put our battery back here on top of here. And a fuel tank. The only thing that's kind of weirding me out is that right there's the muffler, and the heat in the muffler and the heat and batteries and fuel tanks kind of aren't really things that should go together, but I think that's a problem for future me. Just have to build a different exhaust system or something if it's going to be a problem. And anyways, cut the welds on here, spread these frame rails out and slide them in there, and then drill holes and bolt it. We'll see how that goes. I got that chunk of frame mounted back on here. Drilled some holes, bolted it through. So I think I'm going to put the battery back here. Now, I kind of want to lower it so that it's down this, and I'll have to leave some space in here for an air gap so that the battery doesn't get hot, and I'll probably have to build some type of heat shield over this exhaust, but that's not a big deal. So I'm going to look around for a piece of metal that I can build a kind of a battery tray out of and put it in here and see if that ends up being a good spot for the battery. It's definitely going to put some more weight on the back, make it a little bit more rear heavy than front heavy, but that shouldn't be such a problem. Let's see what we can find to put in here for a battery tray holder type thing. Found this piece of metal here. I don't really remember where it was from. It's off this lawn tractor. Oh, it's off the front, which is now the back. But anyways, it's a pretty beefy chunk of metal here. It has some places with some tins on it, probably for some type of implement that was on the front of the lawn tractor. But anyways, it's a good battery sized box. So I'm gonna cut this out, put this in, have a battery there. Does that sound like a good idea? Sure, kind of looks like a good idea. Guess after we put it in there, then we'll know if it's a good idea or not. So I'm gonna go and take this outside and scrape all that slime off of there, whatever it is, probably grease and grass and all kinds of other unmentionable things that I probably shouldn't be sticking my fingers in my mouth after I'm touching it. But anyways, gonna go clean this off, cut this out, put that in there, we'll have a battery spot. Sure, sounds like a good idea. Kind of looks like that was a good idea, hey? Welded that thing in there, battery dropped right in. Fits pretty nicely actually, almost like it was made for that. Got a fair amount of space between the battery and the exhaust, so maybe a little bit of a heat shield in there and everything should be good. Will I build some type of hold down? Well, probably not. I'll probably just wait until the battery slides forward and melts on the muffler and causes some other catastrophe, but for now, that's what it is. Now, I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna do for a fuel tank and where we're gonna put the fuel tank at. So I'm gonna go check my stash of different random tanks that I have laying around here and see what I can figure out for one for this thing. I found this tank here. I believe that I built it many years ago for a go-kart, of all things. It's an old air tank off of an old job site compressor, and I think that was off of the side of a Ford truck. So it kind of looks like it's good. It's the mounts here are the same width as the frame. Now if I build some brackets that are up this high, I can just kind of slide that Group 78 battery out of there. So that would be good. I won't have to move the tank when I need to take the battery out. And I can come off the top here with the fuel line, go across over to the fuel pump. Should be far enough away from the heat of the exhaust. I should be able to put the air filter back on there. I'll have to obviously put a feeder down into the bottom of the tank, come up through this plug here. So yeah, if I build brackets this high off the frame up to here, that should be just about perfect. So that's what we're gonna do and see if it works. Got our little brackets built here and installed, some holes drilled in the frame so that if somewhere down the road we want to change this, we can remove it. It's in there pretty secure. That battery can still come out. Kind of looks like we had a good idea here. If you're liking this build so far, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to follow along for the rest of the build. And share this stuff with your friends or with people that you think are interested in these kind of machines or builds. And yeah, we'll get to the fuel line here and stop yapping. Well, I got us a fuel line built here. That's just an old air chuck fitting that was a little chewed up and didn't really work anymore. Hissed like crazy, so it happens to thread inside that bung, and that fuel line will go down inside the tank, and it's just shy of the bottom so we don't suck up any cooties that might be in that tank. Kind of got some bends in there. Hopefully they're in the more or less the right position. Let's see if we can install this thing and see if it's going to be even close to what I think it will be. Not putting any Teflon tape or anything on these fittings yet, because I'm sure this will be in and out a few times. I'm gonna have to paint this machine and do some other assembly sooner or later, so there's no sense of wasting Teflon tape. Kind of looks like I got my bends in a good spot there. My fuel line is here. And I'm planning on putting an inline fuel filter here so that I don't put any any yickies in that pump. And it looks like we're gonna work. So we got a fuel system now. So I think we'll leave this video here. And until next time, remember, use what you got to make what you want.